Team Amasian over here, Kaori
and Campia.
And we are going to talk about, in this episode of Clue, The Keepers. I know The Keepers came out a while ago, but we're just running down all those true crime documentaries.
Netflix is killing it with these, by the way.
Oh man, I don't even know what we're going to talk about next.
Yeah, there's plenty on there, I'm sure.
Yeah. Or if you guys have any ones that you want to recommend, go for it, because we love them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we are going to talk about The Keepers, and The Keepers is based on Cathy, who was a nun who was found dead.
Yep.
And her murder or death is very mysterious. We suspect that she, not we, but yes, we suspect that she was murdered by a conspiracy to protect this awful priest.
Yep.
His name?
How did I forget it already?
I know.
Father Maskell.
Father Maskell.
Yes.
So, why do we think he did it? Because we do think there's something there.
So starting with the who, I think the docuseries does a good job of laying out right at the beginning that Father Maskell is not to be trusted. He's not a good person. He is accused of multiple counts of sexual abuse by many of the women who attended this all-girls school in Baltimore named Keough Catholic School or something. And Cathy was a beloved nun at this school who a lot of the women trusted in confidence with these allegations of sexual abuse against this priest. And they were so vivid in their memories that have to believe that this guy, well, number one, that he sexually abused women at this school, but he ultimately played into Cathy Selznick's death.
Yes.
Whether he did it or there was, some sort of, the
cover-up.
Exactly. And I think what really intrigued me about this series is that it's not only the murder of a nun, but the Catholic Church is involved. The Baltimore police are involved. They interview the county, I think the county deputy or sheriff or whatever, who took the case on later. And there's a lot of missing pieces, but almost on purpose missing pieces to the story. A lot of the things that would link the father to the murder are missing or just never were transferred over to the county.
They were it feels like they were protecting him.
Yep.
And it's tragic that Cathy had to go out in what we suspect was a conspiracy, or they conspired to keep her mouth shut because she was going to go out of her way and protect these girls.
Yeah.
And they interview a few of these girls, and I haven't watched this show in a very, very long time, but I remember one of the girls just has, like you said, extremely vivid memories, and she explains she didn't really know what was happening, and then the tears are happening. It's sad when you watch it. You're
really
shoot.
Heart-wrenching.
It is.
It's exactly that.
It's tough, and you don't. It's a really tough time right now. A lot of women are coming forward with just general, sexual abuse, sexual harassment, and it hurts to see this because there are women out there who will cry wolf, and it causes this. Did they really do it? Do you know what I mean? Or are they making this up? And it's hard for me to speak about it because it's just, I know there's some people that don't believe her.
Right.
And even in the documentary, there are people that are like, no, you are full of doo-doo.
Right. Yeah, especially when you think about the timing, right? So this woman, there's two main women who come out with these allegations. I believe they're maybe in their 40s now. This abuse happened over 20 years ago. So people are saying, why didn't they come out with this when it happened? But the way this woman portrays what was happening to her, you can understand from her perspective how
completely
she, number one, didn't even know what to do in that instance because she was a student at the school. She was heavy into the religion. She thought it was normal. Yeah, she thought it was normal.
Brainwashed.
This is one of those instances. I know there's a phrase or a term for it, a medical term for it, but it's like a recall memory.
Oh, yes.
Where you suppress the memories because they were so awful that they finally come out. In this case, 20 plus years later, they finally come back to her.
Yeah, that's what was happening to her. She was like is slowly coming back. And there's another, I forgot the medical thing too. There's like a syndrome. It's not Stockholm. Well, there's a syndrome where you get brainwashed so hard to believing that this is normal life. Yeah. You know, and it happens a lot. So these women were not victims of just sexual abuse, but power.
Absolutely.
And it's tough because it's not even this. I watch a lot of crime documentaries, and there's one show I should show you this one where they talk about a lot of times, a lot of cultist religions, like the main guy is a sexual abuser, and he makes it okay and brainwashes them to the point where the girl or father, excuse me, my dog's bumping up and down something. The girl knows something feels off, but she doesn't know because even her mom was like, no, this is part of it. It's to the point where the parents believe it's normal. And it's like, you have to understand that sometimes people come out way later because it takes years to realize that is not okay. So it's hard to see this show, The Keepers. And what a great title, right? The Keepers, like these people keeping these secrets, you know. So, are there any aspects of the show that made you think, okay, maybe he really didn't do it?
I think they did present some good evidence to say maybe he didn't do it, but obviously he's the reason why it happened, I feel like. They do bring up that there's other priests involved. They do bring up that, you know, this is a very Catholic community, and that if anything involved the Catholic Church, that even the police were covering up evidence for these types of crimes.
And this is normal, like, sadly, the police are supposed to protect us, but oftentimes, more than we'd like to admit or acknowledge, they cover things up to keep things stable. You know? This doesn't even just happen in movies. The reason why these movies have these plot lines is because it happens in real life.
And the sad thing is too, as you get further into the series, you know, it's not only women that were abused by Father Maskell, because the thing that happens is they end up Catholic Church ends up moving Father Maskell to other parishes, and then even men come out and say, yeah, he abused me. And so it's not even women, it's men and women are both saying. So I know this is a docuseries about a murder, but there's so much evidence against this priest in terms of just he should not even be practicing as a priest. And who
continues to be, you know. And it hits close to, I mean, as a woman or as a human, I'll say, and for you, like, I don't think we will ever have, no one in our lives as a woman could hit 30 and ever say like, oh, I've never encountered any form of sexual harassment.
Any of that,
Like, I remember one of my first encounters was a 16-year-old girl going to work. I had to take the bus, and this is really silly, but I didn't recognize it. I didn't recognize that it was like, this is wrong. Fucking people honking at you, just walking like, woohoo, you look sexy. Like little things like that. Like, you think a cat call's normal, it's not okay. But as a kid, you're just like, oh, okay, this is weird. You know what I mean?
It doesn't really register with you.
It doesn't register, but now that I'm older, I'm like, that's not okay.
No.
Like, if my daughter was being catcalled at 15, 16 years old, and I saw that, I would kick the person's ass.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it happens frequently for us.
I know.
You know? Like, that's...
Yeah.
that becomes off topic.
I know. So there's that piece of it, right? Which is really hard to hear and to watch these women kind of give their stories, and even men give their stories then.
That's how we relate, though.
Exactly.
Like, we get it. Like, no wonder it didn't register.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to that capacity, too, like you said, gosh, how much do they bury inside of them?
Oh, I know. It's heart-wrenching to watch.
To just live a daily life without thinking about that stuff.
And then to have to come have the memories come back up because of, not because of this docuseries, but for the betterment of trying to get rid of this awful human being who's doing this to people. They have to relive those memories through having to retell it in this series. But where I was going to go with that is the police even investigated the love of Cathy Sesnick. She actually was in love with a guy who was trying to become a priest. Mm-hmm. They had a relationship. They were in love. And part of what the police tried to do was pin it on this man who I can't even see just from the interviews with him that he would ever play into this murder, because he was clearly in love with her.
Suspect.
He even to this day is in love with her. He has his own family. He has his own wife. Even the wife is supportive of him trying to figure out who murdered his previous love of his life. So I can't see why this man would have been the one to kill Cathy.
Right. And I mean, all of it, for me, the missing pieces, all it says is just missing evidence to prove that it's leading towards him. Already that line is heading towards that direction, but there's pieces that they're trying to protect because they don't have full on evidence. Yeah. It's just word of mouth at this point.
There's some weird things too. I'll bring this up to you and you tell me what you think. So what happens is there's a few things, right? Supposedly Cathy went to go buy a gift for her, I think it's her sister, like a engagement gift. Mm-hmm. And within this event is when supposedly she was kidnapped and murdered. Mm-hmm. There is part of the story where they find out that there's no evidence of her ever going to the mall. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. Would love to hear what you think of that. Then there's evidence of when they do the autopsy, which they never released the autopsy results to the family.
No.
But supposedly the girl who Father Maskell went and showed the dead body to, she recalls that Cathy's body had maggots on it.
Yeah.
And so part of that has to do with how long has the body been decomposing, right? So if it was a few days after the murder, you wouldn't have maggots on your body.
Yeah, it's really
which means
suspect.
she was out there for a long time.
Yeah.
And she wasn't even in the woods or anything. It was kind of like a clearing where they found her. So people probably would have seen where she was.
So the suspicion is that they moved her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there's that piece of evidence. There's there was supposedly a letter that Cathy sent to her sister days before. She actually handwrote a letter and mailed it days before she was murdered. Mm-hmm. The letter arrived to her sister, but the police took the letter, and the letter is not to be found. So nobody knows what the letter says. There's a lot of things. Cathy was also wearing the engagement ring that the man that she was in love with. She was wearing that on her dead body. So there's that piece. Like, there was a lot that I feel there was enough evidence to kind of dig in and figure out who did it. But to this day, just looked it up, the killer remains unknown.
It's so corrupt. Mm-hmm. It's so corrupt, and we say the killer remains unknown, but they know. Yeah. We know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we know. And now the man we suspect is the killer, Father Maskell, is now dead. Yeah. So really, there's no one to convict of the murder. It would be nice to convict them anyway, even post-mortem, because at least then the family has closure. Yes. Which they still do not have.
Yes. And they're never going to get that closure.
No. And so Cathy's friends, all the people who are on the Facebook group that are trying to, help solve this case for them, trying to bring closure to the family, I don't know that we're ever going to get that. It's unfortunate.
They probably won't. And it's because they're protecting a foul human being. Mm-hmm. And it's tragic that oftentimes, more than we'd like to see, people who are in high positions take advantage of that because they know they will be protected, because they know they have money. Yep. And that's often the kind of criminals that
they get away with.
They get away with.
Robert Durst. There you go. Exactly. That's Michael Peterson. I mean, he didn't have his own money, but he had his wife's dead wife's money. So there's other factors that really play into the fact that this is now still an unsolved mystery.
And it's gonna remain unsolved unless someone ever comes through with solid evidence where the police will be like, well, crap, we need to. But the police they messed up so deeply that they don't even probably want to touch base with, like, going back to Adnan's case, I think the police messed up so much with the evidence and messed around with it so much, and now they're like, we have to stick to Adnan doing it. You know what I mean? Like, this happens far too often when they know.
Baltimore PD in both instances.
Yep.
I don't know, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
A little weird.
It's really weird. Anyway, so yes, Keepers makes me feel sad just talking about it.
Yeah.
Because it's happening. It's happening now. It's happening in this world. In this instance, someone in this world is being abused by someone of power. And that person of power is gonna get away with it and going to continue to get away with it because, one, people are too afraid to speak up, which I understand. Like, it's incomprehensible. As someone who always wants to think the good in people, if that was happening to me, it would take me probably, I imagine, a long time to realize, like, this person's not a good human being. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard,
Yeah.
especially when it's a priest.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, so comment below. Let us know what you think and thought about the Keepers. Are there things that we missed that you wanted to touch base on? Let us know. And also, where can they follow you?
You guys can follow me at Ancampia, and you can follow both of us at Team Amasian.
And you can follow me at KAORIOUS. Thumbs up this video. Subscribe to this channel for more of these Clue episodes. And tell us what true crime documentaries you recommend to us, because we love them, except for Making a Murderer, which part 2 is coming out, and I have just zero interest in it. I know, I just had to bring that up. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in.
Bye.